Your brain stops being plastic at 35. Not gradually, it crosses a measurable threshold. And the research shows that most professionals spend their early 30s doing exactly the wrong things during the one window where the right moves compound for the next 4 decades. By the end of this video, you will have a 4-part biological protocol that tells you precisely where to direct your energy between now and 35. So your brain, hormones, and habits are working for you instead of quietly closing doors. This is not a motivational video about getting your life together before you turn 30. This is a research briefing. 4 specific biological systems: your prefrontal cortex, your testosterone curve, your neuroplasticity window, and your cortisol chronotype all hit decisive inflection points between ages 28 and 35. Miss those windows and the cost is measurable. Slower learning, worse decisions, lower energy output, and a brain that is genuinely harder to rewire. Stay through the 4th point, because that is where the actual protocol lives, and it is the part most people never connect to their daily performance. Here's the problem. Most professionals in their late 20s and early 30s are operating on the same productivity and health assumptions they formed at 22. More effort, more caffeine, push through. But the biological environment has changed. A 2019 study published in Nature Neuroscience found that the human brain undergoes its most significant structural reorganization between ages 25 and 35, not in adolescence, as previously assumed. At the same time, hormonal baselines are shifting in ways that directly affect cognitive stamina and emotional regulation. The professionals who understand this do not work harder. They redirect the same effort toward the variables that actually move the needle during this specific biological window. That is the entire framework of this video. The first system is your prefrontal cortex, and this is where the research gets uncomfortable. Stanford neuroscientist Sarah Jane Blakemore's work confirms that the prefrontal cortex, the region governing judgment, long-term planning, and impulse control, does not reach full myelination until approximately age 28 to 30. This is not metaphorical. Myelination is the physical insulation of neural pathways that determines how fast and reliably your brain transmits signals for complex decision-making. Here is the performance consequence. A partially myelinated prefrontal cortex means your decisions before 30 carry measurably higher noise, more emotional reactivity, slower risk calibration, and reduced working memory under stress. The research estimates this translates to roughly 90 fewer minutes of high-quality decision-making capacity per day compared to a fully matured brain at 32. But here's the strategic part. Between 28 and 33, your brain is completing this process in real time. That means the habits, mental models, and decision frameworks you install during this window are being wired in at the hardware level, not just as learned behavior, but as structural neural architecture. The takeaway is precise. Before age 33, prioritize deliberate exposure to high-stakes decisions in your professional domain. Not more information consumption. Actual decision repetition under conditions that matter. Every major choice you make in this window is neurologically cheaper to encode than it will ever be again. The average professional makes 35,000 decisions per day, but fewer than 70 of them are actually using the full capacity of the prefrontal cortex. The rest are running on autopilot, which is exactly why the habits you build right now carry 4 times the structural weight of anything you build after 35. The second system is testosterone, and this applies to both men and women in ways that most performance research has only recently clarified. A landmark longitudinal study from the New England Journal of Medicine tracked testosterone levels in men across decades and found that peak testosterone occurs between ages 25 and 30, followed by a decline of approximately 1 to 2% per year starting at 30. In women, testosterone, which governs motivation, cognitive drive, and physical recovery, follows a steeper curve, dropping by roughly 50% between ages 20 and 40. Here's the direct performance consequence. Testosterone is the primary biological driver of what researchers call effortful cognition, the kind of focused, sustained mental work that produces professional output. As levels decline, the average professional loses approximately 45 minutes of genuine deep work capacity per day by age 38 compared to age 28, even with identical sleep and nutrition. The strategic window is the 5-year corridor between 28 and 33. During this period, testosterone is still high enough to support aggressive neurological habit formation, but your prefrontal cortex is now mature enough to direct that drive purposefully rather than impulsively. The actionable protocol is straightforward and research-supported. Resistance training 3 times per week has been shown in a University of Texas meta-analysis to maintain testosterone levels within 15% of peak for an additional decade. Not because muscle is the goal, because testosterone is the substrate for every hour of focused professional output you produce. A 2021 study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that professionals who skip resistance training entirely in their 30s show cognitive processing speeds equivalent to someone 5 years older by age 42. That is not a fitness statistic. That is a career trajectory statistic. The third system is neuroplasticity, and this one has the most direct impact on career compounding. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to form new connections in response to learning, challenge, and novel experience. MIT neuroscientist Eli Nadivi's research established that synaptic plasticity, the raw cellular mechanism of learning, operates on a biological budget that decreases with age. At 25, your brain forms new synaptic connections with approximately 40% more efficiency than it does at 40. That efficiency window does not disappear, but it narrows. The practical translation: every high-difficulty skill you acquire before 35 is encoded at a neurological discount. Every skill you try to acquire after 35 carries a learning tax. It takes more repetitions, more time, and more metabolic energy to achieve the same level of encoding. The performance consequence for professionals is precise. A complex technical skill that takes 50 hours to reach competency at age 29 will require approximately 80 hours at age 40, assuming equivalent effort. That 30-hour gap compounds across a career. The takeaway is not to learn everything before 35. It is to be ruthlessly intentional about which high-leverage skills you prioritize before the learning discount expires. The research points to 3 categories with the highest career ROI in this window: a second technical domain adjacent to your primary expertise, advanced communication frameworks such as structured argumentation or persuasive writing, and systems thinking, the ability to model complex interdependencies. These 3 compound the most because they multiply everything else you already know. The 3 skills with the highest career return: a second technical domain, structured communication, and systems thinking, share one thing in common. They are all skills most professionals tell themselves they will learn when things slow down. Things do not slow down. The window does. Now here is the piece the hook promised: the specific protocol that ties all 3 previous systems together. And it starts with cortisol. Cortisol is typically framed as the stress hormone, but that framing misses the performance architecture it controls. A 2020 study from the University of Birmingham found that cortisol follows a precise daily rhythm, peaking within 30 to 45 minutes of waking, then declining steadily through the afternoon. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is the biological engine that determines your window of peak cognitive performance each day. Here's what the research shows specifically. During the cortisol peak, your prefrontal cortex is running at maximum signal-to-noise efficiency. Working memory is sharpest, decision quality is highest, novel learning encodes fastest. In your 30s, this peak window narrows. At 25, the cortisol awakening response sustains peak cognitive performance for approximately 3 to 4 hours. By 40, that window compresses to 2 to 2.5 hours. This is not fatigue, it is biology, and it explains why your afternoon performance feels structurally worse no matter what you do. The protocol is 4 steps and takes 0 additional time. Step 1. Identify your cortisol peak. It begins 30 to 45 minutes after waking and lasts roughly the next 2 to 3 hours. Step 2. Schedule your single most cognitively demanding task inside that window every day without exception. Not email, not meetings. Your highest leverage professional output. Step 3. Use the testosterone resistance training protocol 3 times per week to extend the duration of your peak window by 15 to 20%. Step 4. Before age 35, use every cortisol peak hour to encode one of the 3 high-leverage skills from point 3. The compound effect of aligning neuroplasticity, testosterone levels, and prefrontal maturation with your peak cortisol window is what the research describes as biological stacking. And between 28 and 35, it is the single highest return performance investment available to a working professional. Here's what the research is actually asking you to do right now. Drop your age and the one performance area, decisions, learning, energy, or focus that you most want to protect in the next 5 years. The answers in the comments will tell you exactly what the next Growth Daily briefing needs to cover. If this briefing was useful, the next video on this channel covers the exact opposite of this one. What happens to the professionals who do protect these biological windows in their 30s? Specifically, the compound cognitive advantage that accumulates by age 42 in people who implement the biological stacking protocol. It is research-backed, it runs under 12 minutes, and it will make the work you put in today feel like the best investment you have ever made. Subscribe to Growth Daily and hit the notification bell so that video lands in your feed the moment it goes live. The research does not wait. Neither should you.